Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Fishing with FLAIR. Today I'm going to show you how to Texas rig with these three different styled hooks. So what you got here, this is an offset wide gap hook. This looks about like a 3/0. The aught doesn't really matter today, but so I'll explain the difference between all these hooks. So you can see the hook is bent down towards the eyelet. It's down at like a downcline angle, so it's like pointed down. These are good for mainly I usually use these for craws or stuff like that versus worms, but they work too. Here you got an offset round bend. I use these for worms. These are more my worm hooks or flipping hooks. Use those. And then this is just an offset wide gap, but it has like the fixed weight on it instead of just like the loose going Texas rig. These are Gamakatsus. I like these a lot too. Okay, so first I'll start off with the wide gap offset. So for these, I prefer using, like right here I have the Crawfatty, the Havoc Crawfatty, or this is the Pit Boss. So out of these two, which they're the same, they're offset wide gap, it doesn't really matter. But just for today, I'll hook it up with the Havoc Pit Boss. The reason why I like using the Pit Boss or the Crawfatty for these is the hooks. They're easier to tech skin, which if you guys don't know that, it's like skin hooks. So I'll show you. Okay, so for this one, I'll use the Havoc Pit Boss. So what you do is you can see the length of the top right after that bend. That's like, I don't know, maybe a quarter of an inch. That's how far you want to put it down. A lot of people say go down to the first bend. I don't like doing that because then it'll cover the eyelet. So this way it won't cover the eyelet. So you just go down about a quarter of an inch and then you pop it back out like that. Then you put it all the way down. Just keep pulling your hook. And then when it gets to the bend, just turn it and slide it up. See how it's not covering the tip? If you would have went the whole, that's like a third of an inch or closer to half, that would have went over the top. So you don't want to do that. And then here, the Pit Boss has like a little groove here for the hooks. So what you do is line up the hooks and see where it's going to enter. So you see, if you're looking at it like this, you can see it's going to enter right where my fingernail is. So then you want to like squish up the Pit Boss, stick it right where it was going to enter, and then you want to pop it all the way through, out the top. So it's like that, out the top. So it's just like normal like that, but to make this weedless, what you have to do is you have to push forward like this, scrunch up, and you have to point the hook down, and then push that back up. So you can see that's completely weedless. I mean, these work for flipping baits or worm baits too. Just the advantage of using offset round bend versus a wide gap is when a hook or when a fish grabs this, they're gonna bite down and then they'll get hooked. But as you can see, when you pull down, it's the hook's facing down as it is, so they have to bite down pretty hard, especially with this fat bait like this, pretty hard to get hooked. You know, you can see like that, you get hooked like that. So I mean, you can catch fish with this. I mean, it's not an issue. It's just I prefer these round bends, and I'll show you why. So here I have Demiki Mega Miki worm. This is obviously too small of a hook for this worm, but I'll show you how to Texas rig it. So you can see the length of that little offset part is how far you want to start it down. So you start it down about like 1/8 of an inch, like the offset part is. So then you pull it out, just like before on the Pit Boss. Slide it all the way up, turn it, push it up, just like that. So then you lay it down to see where it's going to enter. So you can see it's going to enter right where my fingernail is. So squish it up, but the difference on what you do with the round bends is instead of popping it all the way out like that, leave it inside the worm. So stick it back in, but just like tug on it, so it's like this, so it's not coming out. You can see that's a perfectly straight worm like that. But the good thing is so you don't even have to expose it or skin hook it, whatever. But when a fish grabs that, so you can see the top of the hooks right there, versus on the offset wide gap, it was a little bit smaller. So this is you can see the hook, it's parallel. It's not at a pointed angle down. So when you hook it like this, it's keeps your worm straight, but you have a better hookup ratio. So if you're finding yourself like this, the past spring I was throwing a 4-inch swim Cinco, and if I would set the hook, the fish would just come off, like it wouldn't hook him, and that's because I was using a hook like this, like a offset wide gap, and I switched to an offset round bend, and I was getting a lot more hookup ratios, because when you would yank the hook out of the bass's mouth, it would stay in there, since the hook is bent, it's like straight, versus it's not at a down angle. But when it's down at a down angle and the bass bites, if you yank it, the odds of that slipping out of his mouth are a lot better. But that's not saying these don't work. These are still probably my favorite hooks, but for different reasons. But you don't want to use a round bend, or at least I don't like to, for like a thin. You can see how thin that craw is. This is a craw fatty. If it's like if it's thin, not wide but thin, you want to use this like an offset wide gap, since the hook's pointed down. And I'll show you why. So you can see the length of that little offset part. That's how far you want to put it in. So put it in about 1/4 of an inch, just like all the rest. Pull it out, go all the way to the top, turn it around, and then push it all the way up to the weight. The reason why I don't want to use a round bend is the hook will be exposed. It's hard to expose it when the body's so thin like this. So I like to use those for worms. So here, just like the other ones, you see where it enters. You can see where it enters right there. So I'll put my fingernail there. You squish it up. You pull it all the way out like that. So then the hook comes all the way out. And then what you do is you just kind of stick it back in, and then you expose it. So that means you pull it back and then squish it back, so then it keeps the hook weedless. You just push up, push down, or like point the hook back down, and then pull back up. So it keeps your craw perfectly straight like this, and you have better exposing. Like it's a lot easier to do that versus a round bend. And real quickly, I'll show you why I don't like doing it with a round bend. So I'll take the hook out of here, and I'll show you why. So I'll just rig this like a Texas rigging. And, I mean, you can use round bends. It's not a big deal. It's just you get snagged a lot easier. But if you're flipping, you definitely want to use a round bend. So here, you can see when it comes out like that, it's harder to expose it. See, it keeps popping out. But you can, like this is a fairly fat craw fatty. I mean, it's like thick. So you can see, like, it's weedless. So you can use it. I mean, it's up to you. It'll take practice for you to be able to get it just like how I did, where the craw is straight, but yet the tip is not pointed out. I just kind of proved myself wrong. You can do it, but at the same time, I like using wide gaps for craws like this, unless you're flipping. So if you're flipping, you want to use a round bend. You get a lot better hookup ratios. So if you find yourself yanking hooks out of fish, switch to a round bend. You'll have better hookup ratios. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Fishing with FLAIR. I hope I helped you out when hooking up craws or pit bosses or worms or whatever. So next time you're out on the water, use these tactics and you'll catch more fish. Thanks.